Hey, I'm Patty,
And I'm Matty.
and we're getting chatty.
Today we're talking about the classic cult comedy Twins from 1988.
That's right. So this is Ivan Reitman directing and producing, I believe. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Devito.
Yeah, that's for sure. And this is Schwarzenegger's first foray into the comedy space after
Yeah,
being quite heavily, action based.
yeah. So far, I actually have the filmographies pulled up of all the primary players. So Schwarzenegger, like I said, his big films here are Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, The Terminator, Red Sonja, that wasn't as big, but yeah, Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, Running Man, Red Heat, all classic films actually. He's had quite a filmography even just up until that point. Like I said, 88 is Twins. Um, Now, one thing with DeVito, I'm not actually as familiar with DeVito's work prior to the Twins. How about you? Are you?
Well,
I mean, I think Schwarzenegger were on board already with Schwarzenegger.
yeah, so I'm pretty sure like DeVito came up through the stand up comedy scene, like most comedians do nowadays, and even more so back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as his filmography goes, um, yeah, I don't think not too much stand out before 1988. But let
Yeah.
me take a
Now,
closer look.
yeah, and I have it here. The only ones. So, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm familiar with, but not for Danny DeVito. He was kind of a bit role, like kind of a background role in that movie.
Definitely not a mainliner.
No, not at all. So I do see like Terms of Endearment, which I'm not that familiar with. Johnny Dangerously, which I'm also not that familiar with. I think Tin Men and Throw Mama from the Train. That one I heard of, but I don't think I've ever seen it before.
Is that one
Uh,
with Sylvester Stallone?
that I'm not sure. I'd have to dig deeper in here. But one thing I wasn't aware of, you mentioned that he was a stand-up comedian. That I'm not actually sure I ever knew.
I mean, that's. I think basically every comedian before today's day and age of social media has started off as a stand-up comedy routine artist somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
sure, but yeah, I just didn't really picture like Danny DeVito as like a traditional like comedian in that sense, since I've really only known him from film and TV shows
Mm-hmm.
and whatever. Uh, as well, he's had plenty of dramatic roles too. Obviously, he's not only a comedic actor, but I think that's the thing that I would actually more
Versatile.
associate. Sorry, what's
He's versatile.
he is versatile, but like I almost associate him a little bit more with dramatic roles versus comedic roles. Now, with that said, I'm not that familiar with his entire body of work, so hard to say on that. Now, if you're talking comedians, though, Ivan Reitman, the director slash producer, he actually had. He's not prolific, but he had a few decent movies. Just a few highlights are Meatballs, Stripes, Ghostbusters, which I think all of those had Bill Murray in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Then Twins. There was another like Legal Eagles. I don't know what that is. But yeah, then Twins and Ghostbusters 2. And then even with Schwarzenegger again, Kindergarten Cop and Junior. Those are all Ivan Reitman films.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of backtracking here. Just looking at his um, more in depth. He's actually started off with what they call off Broadway, more serious roles, which that is probably more in line of what we see in his early filmographies.
yeah. Well, and like I said, I kind of associate him almost like a bit more with dramatic versus comedic. Again, like I said, he's versatile. He can definitely do both. I mean, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I'm a huge fan of, and he's been a big part of that show. Obviously, one of his best comedic roles, I think, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's I think kind of sets up kind of somewhat the climate of the time. We see. I think Schwarzenegger was obviously the bigger name here, in my opinion. Coming off of the list of movies that I even mentioned, those are all excellent films. I don't think
I
he's
would
made a
have
bad
to,
movie until like late '90s or something like that.
yeah, I would have to agree that the standout actor here was Arnold.
Yeah,
And I think that's what drew people into the box offices, especially seeing him in such a out of the box role for him,
yeah, yeah. Well, like I
being
said, yeah, first
barbarian
comedic
type.
role, yeah, first comedic
Yeah.
film that he's done. So, and I think it like perfectly suits. He's perfectly suited for the role, as we'll get into as we get into the film here.
Yeah, frankly, I was a little bit disappointed in the movie, just a touch for its possibilities of the premise of the movie. I don't know if we want to get right into it, but I might as well.
Well, I think the
Uh,
basic premise. Yeah, we can touch on the basic
yeah,
premise. Sure.
the basic premise is that these scientists put together 6 men who they threw all their DNA into basically like a melting pot, and they were trying to create the evolutionary next, I guess, stage of
Mhm.
humans, both mind, body, and etc. etc.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um,
It's basically like Freddy Krueger, but done in a lab for the most part. To try to achieve,
yeah,
I guess, the opposite.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah,
And so what ended up happening is he was supposed to have like superhuman strength, superhuman intelligence,
yeah.
superhuman
Basically, yeah.
like all these.
The six fathers were like trying to take the best of each person and
Exactly,
trying to,
exactly.
put it into one
And
offspring.
even though they do have a sprinkling of his superhuman strength within the movie, I feel like it could have been utilized a touch more on the latter half of the movie. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it was almost like it was an afterthought that the superhuman strength even existed in his character. There was a
Uh,
couple of shticks that he did,
yeah, yeah,
with the
yeah.
motorcycle and the car, but like beyond that, it was just
Yeah,
like
and a few,
almost like an
couple,
afterthought.
a couple fighting scenes. But I think they maybe just try to go a little bit more towards the lighthearted comedy part of it versus making it like an action movie. Maybe they just wanted to kind of stay away from making it an action movie. I'm thinking.
Fair, but they
Yeah,
absolutely still could have used it in comedic purposes, like him
they,
accidentally breaking things
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that maybe because he was raised on the island, right? So maybe
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
island had more like steel and like stronger structures.
Well,
Now,
just yeah. Or well, to that point, there was that scene where they were in the supermarket where I think he was wearing Devito's shirt, if I'm not mistaken, but he was wearing a shirt that wasn't his, and then he like ripped it with his bicep. So I think they
yeah,
could like maybe have like a few more things along those lines. Could have worked maybe. Well, that said, you don't want to like
yeah,
overdo it with the gags either, because this movie doesn't feel like a big like gag movie. You know what I
that
mean?
is true, especially on the second half.
Yeah, yeah, and I wouldn't say it's a particularly like laugh out loud hilarious movie either. It's a comedy, but it's not
Hmm.
like a Leslie Nielsen comedy where it's like joke after joke or like parody after parody, that kind of thing. It's
That's
just a
true,
lighthearted film that's got lighthearted humor in it basically.
but
Uh,
a wholesome message.
oh yeah, 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 absolutely.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said, it's almost like a little bit more about the story than, like I said, just one joke after the other kind of thing. It's not that type of comedy, I guess, right?
True, true.
And there's some serious aspects to it. We'll touch on because there is kind of a serious kind of backstory to it. So I'm not sure how you want to attack this thing, but I have some notes that are more or less chronological to the film. So I kind of want to go more or less chronologically. Obviously, we can veer off and whatever if we have any other comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one more. I thought
Yeah.
was one of the funnier aspects of him being like having superhuman strength was I don't know if you caught it, but it was subtle when he's leaving the island in the rowboat.
Hmm.
You could tell that they had a motor attached to the boat, but he was still rowing,
Yeah.
and they made it look like there was no motor, so that he was like so strong that he was rowing that fast.
Yeah, I think the idea was that he was supposed to just like hand row himself to the.
That I liked. I thought that was clever.
Well, maybe he was just like overpowering the motor. Motor probably wasn't even doing anything.
Yeah, it was all his biceps that did that created the wake in the water.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how it starts. So yeah, Arnold is. Well, they do open up with a scene where they explain the experiment, kind of. They show the fathers, they show the mother, the scientists. So they do set that up. So the movie actually starts kind of like with this, scientific scene in a serious way, we could say. And then brief scene on the island with his, scientist father or whatever. The scientist wasn't one of the fathers, but adopted father, let's say.
Exactly.
So
what I also found that they could have done a little bit better with is they mentioned in the intro basically that he spoke 12 languages, and if memory serves, and I just watched this 2 nights ago, but if memory serves, I don't think they even had him speaking another language even once.
No, I don't think so. Not even they could have even had something where maybe he could translate something for Vincent, Devito's character.
Yeah, not even as a gag, just as a... Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, or even maybe maybe they went to, they could have gone to a fancy French restaurant or Italian restaurant, and he could have spoke, a different language to, the wait staff, for example. That could have been a nice little touch there. But yeah, you're right. They didn't touch, I think, at all on the language thing.
I don't know if they were rushing through the movie, because the movie was only an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, but an hour and a half is pretty standard for most movies. Once you get into the more a Lord of the Rings kind of thing, more the epic kind of movie, then they're longer. But yeah, 1 hour and a half is very standard for most movies.
Right, but what I'm saying is they could have stretched that to even hour 50, hour 55.
Yeah. And I was gonna say even adding. Yeah, even adding, about 15 minutes, because 15 minutes is, an hour 45, adding 15 minutes would actually add quite a bit, quite a bit of gags and things like that, I think, right? Because, think about how long, a 1 minute scene is, try to write a 1 minute scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think I have anything to touch on the island still, but one thing I did make note of is they were 35 years old when they met. So that also kind of put yourself in that position of Devito's been living this rough life, I guess, to some degree, kind of a criminal life, and Schwarzenegger's spent all of his young adulthood basically on this island with this scientist. So it's kind of crazy to think about, and we're not much older than that. So
yeah, exactly. That's they also gag it up. A little later on in the movie, but obvious reasons. He's on an island with just his adoptive father, so there's not much room for girls.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Yeah, we'll touch on that in a scene later on. Quite a memorable one for me, actually. I'll mention the part that I remember specifically. I want to touch on. So after he, the boat scene, leaving the island. Now he's walking around, I think it's Los Angeles they're in, right?
Well, I just would like to touch on, just him in the airplane with the headphones on.
Oh, yeah,
singing really loud.
Yeah. So that was one of the funnier scenes.
It showed his, ineptitude in social situations.
Yeah, and even, almost, childlike behavior, still to some degree.
That's true. Yeah, very.
Yeah. But like you said, definitely he's probably never been around more than one person at a time theoretically if he was on that island, right?
Yeah.
So that was a great scene. Just at the inside the airplane, and then he arrives in. So it is Los Angeles, right? That's where the movie's set.
I thought it was Miami. Was I wrong? No.
I'm not sure. I just thought it was LA, but I mean that's not a major
plot
factor.
issue. Yeah.
You know what? I don't think it is Miami because they were traveling to New Mexico and then to Houston. They said New Mexico was on the way, so they had to be in California. I'm thinking.
Yeah, it probably is California.
Yeah. And I mean, this is late '80s Hollywood movie, so it's got to be in LA. I'm thinking, but anyway, I'm pretty sure it was in Los Angeles. But like I said, it's
it is.
not,
You're right. Vincent was placed in an orphanage run by nuns in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. So
Yeah. So, like I said, it's not entirely relevant, other than the minor thing that I mentioned there. But
right.
so a couple things that I noticed here. We did touch on this in a previous conversation where Arnold Schwarzenegger, Julius is Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. Vincent is Dan DeVito's character. They actually ran into each other right at the beginning of that scene, or close to the beginning of that scene where Arnold was navigating the city.
They're both looking at a movie theater, I believe it is. Or
I can't remember. I don't think. I think there was a movie theater in the background. I don't think they really pointed it out as like a focal point or anything like that. I think the main focal point was. I think the main focal point was that they both looked in the same direction and did the butt scratch.
With the same hand and everything.
Yeah, exactly. The exact same way, and then they moved on. Now, by this point, if you've even seen any of the trailers, which I have not actually watched the trailers, but at this point, we know that these two are the twins in this movie, right? So that's nothing it's not like foreshadowing when we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
No. So the audience is well aware of who the twin is. I mean, even if you just look at the box art, right?
No, exactly. Yeah. The posters would have had it. Yeah, the box art, all that stuff. So we definitely know that these are the twins.
The intended twins. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Both actors are very, very recognizable, I would say, especially at this time. So another thing I noticed too. When he was walking around, he walked past a Sylvester Stallone poster.
Oh yeah, he just pointed and laughed at him too.
Yeah. Or looked at the muscles or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so gold.
And there was I guess a huge rivalry between
poster. It. Yeah.
It was a poster for Rambo 3. I was gonna say. Yeah. I looked it up specifically. But yeah, there was a big rivalry between Arnold and Stallone back in the day. I think they buried the hatchet since, but they had kind of
they were both in the Expendables, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, back then, when we're talking 80s and 90s, it was there's more details we can go on in there. I don't even know the entire story, but I've definitely heard it before.
I should look into that. I don't know if I don't think it was just a friendly rivalry either. I think it was
it wasn't
each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was as bad as maybe Tupac and Biggie rivalry, but obviously these two are still alive. But I don't think it was entirely friendly either, though, like you said. So that's definitely something that we can touch on another time. I did notice that there's an actual whole Wikipedia page on that rivalry, so that's a good place to start anyway.
I'm just gonna pause and interject here for a quick second. I know any viewers out there were wondering what's the deal with the Pikachu hat. And I'm definitely going to get into that, but later on in the episode.
Yeah. We don't want to be getting too far into that during the episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear the air so that...
No, 100%. No, I know people are wondering. Exactly. Yeah, we don't want to keep people on their toes either.
That's true.
So, I just want to comment too. Rambo 3 came out in May of 88, and this movie, Twins, came out in December of 88. So over just a few months, they would have put that poster in. Well, that's so they could have filmed that last minute kind of thing too.
Yeah,
that was a very fresh movie at the time, the Rambo 3 reference.
Right.
Nothing else that I have for walking around. Actually, there was one that you touched on. I guess one of the funny scenes was where the motorcycle guy came in and tried to take Arnold's briefcase.
Yeah,
and Arnold didn't even notice. He just held on to it, and the guy just went flying.
Exactly. And they were just. He's like, "Oh, do you want my help? We should call you an ambulance." Like, no, just leave us alone, man. So apologetic.
Yeah.
For
so that was one of
getting robbed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that was one of those comedic scenes that showed Arnold's childlike nature. To some degree, and the super strength at the same time.
I guess,
And
would it be childlike nature in that scene, or would it be more so the fact that he's like naive?
I was gonna say,
living,
more naive, not so much childlike, but more naive.
yeah, because he lived on an island where there was no real crime or any like fear of people stealing from him.
I would imagine that he would have read some crime or something, but I actually tried to look at like the books that were in the pile, and I couldn't really pick out any specific book there. It was kind of my copy. I gotta get like a Blu-ray, nice Blu-ray copy or something like that to really read those. And I am wondering if there's any specific references in there either. I think there could have been some interesting references there, but nothing that I got when I was watching though. But it also shows his knowledge of, not so much knowledge of medicine necessarily, but just trying to help the guy out, right?
He does do a little bit like first aid kind of
to some degree,
concussion and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then he tells them that they should wear helmets.
Yeah.
For the guy walking on the street too.
Yeah.
You should wear helmets. Wow, I'm Arnold.
He said it just like that. But yeah, so not much else I can think of about the scene where he was walking around. And there was another kind of funny thing where you saw everybody was like Arnold was kind of like a foot or 1 or 2 feet like taller than everybody else around him. He was just this huge guy walking around.
Yeah,
that's another kind of like little gag kind of thing. Which I would imagine that there's plenty of weightlifters and whatever in Los Angeles, so I don't think he would have been really that out of place there, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially at that time, because Mr. Olympia was a big thing back then, right?
Well, literally, Arnold Schwarzenegger is an LA guy. Obviously, he was born in Austria or whatever, but at that point, he was an LA guy, so he's the type of guy that just does live there and walk around there, essentially, right? So, but again, it was like one of those gags where it shows that this guy's out of place and showing him as like larger than life.
Yeah.
So obviously they had to do it like that. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to touch on from that general scene? Yeah, I think we're pretty good there. The next kind of highlight for me that I've noted anyway was when he essentially starts looking for Vincent at this point.
Yeah.
And I believe he goes to the prison first.
No, doesn't he go to the orphanage first?
Oh, you're right. Yeah. He goes to the orphanage to speak with the the nun or whatever that was there. Yeah, but he didn't really get anywhere there. Or I guess he found out that he's in trouble with the law to some degree, maybe. So I guess that's what sent him over to the prison to look for him.
Well, yeah, the nun tells him you're more likely to find him in jail.
Yeah.
So he just happened to. And Vincent, in the meantime, gets arrested for having too many parking tickets.
Yeah, like 200 outstanding parking tickets.
Yeah.
And he could have gone away with 201 parking tickets, but he talked back to the cop that left him the ticket there. Because he arrived right when he left it.
Exactly.
Then it's like, can I see your license and registration, please? Yeah, so... And then did they? I don't think they showed how Arnold actually found him, or how Vincent actually found.
In jail.
Julius found.
I guess because Julius went to the local jail and just asked if he was there, and just because of the parking tickets thing.
You know what? Actually, no. I think actually what it is, because they reference this a few times in the movie, is they have that twin, brain connection, that telepathic.
Oh,
twin
that's
connection.
true. They do.
So there's probably a little bit of an aspect of that. A little bit, sprinkle a little bit of luck in. Obviously, going to that orphanage, and because you have to. So I'm not sure what Vincent's last name was. Did they both have the last name in the movie? I can't even remember. Because Vincent was adopted.
Quickly check it up.
Yeah. If you check it up, because I think Benedict was their last name. I think they did use the same last name.
It was Vincent. Vincent. Yeah, they both have the same last name, Benedict.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, if maybe Vince was had it changed at some point or something like that, that would have made it harder for him to find. But yeah, he could find him by the last name too. But personally, I think it's that mental twin connection. And again, they did reference that a few other times. So that's why I guess actually the one of the main scenes, main gags in the prison. Actually, there's a couple. So as Julius is waiting for Vince to come out, there's another like muscular, bodybuilder guy that comes out. Then Arnold's like looking at him.
Kind of looks like him.
Yeah. He's like looking at his muscles, looking at that guy. He's like, "Hey, this must be my brother." And then he just like walks past, doesn't even look at him. And then so as he's still like following him as Vincent like sits down and then like looks at him and it's just a surprise. Then the other gag I guess is when he sits down, whatever, starts talking to him. He's like telling him this whole life story, whatever. The whole time like Vincent can't even hear him. He just grabs the phone.
He's not using
pick up the
another
phone.
Scene where it shows his naivety, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I mean, for that, it's just not being aware of modern technology, essentially, right? Which I guess he would have been somewhat exposed to on the island because he was doing scientific work, but
don't lick your balls on camera, Maverick.
Oh boy, what's happening over there? All right, we'll blur that out after.
Just pixelate it temporarily.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I think that's it for the police or the prison scene.
Yeah.
So Vince, I think, just bails him out. Or sorry, Julius bails him out.
Exactly, and the only way he does that is because Vince tells him that he only cares about money, and he didn't care whether or not Julius was legit or not. He was just like, "Oh, you can get me out of here. You have money. Great, go pay."
At that point, he was kind of like leading him on a little bit. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be whoever you want. I'll be your cousin. I'll be your aunt, like, whatever, that kind of thing." Then when they left the prison, I think this is one of the first parts where they have that twin connection where Julius picks out Vince's car and actually finds it for him. It's like, oh, hey, how'd you know that was my car? It's like, well, we're twins. Of course I know which car is yours.
Yeah, you're right. That did happen.
Yeah.
There's a good-looking red Mustang, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, 5.0 Mustang. I think my sister actually had one of those Mustangs before, too. Not when it was brand new, but she had, I think, the like very similar model, that body style. Convertible. Yeah, convertible. Mm-hmm. So this is a scene where Vincent abandons Julius. So he gets in his car, Julius comes in to try to like open it, but the car's locked.
Right.
And then he just drives away. Then I want to see if I have anything else on my notes. So I'm not sure what scene was next exactly, but I think it was him trying to... I think he goes right to the parking garage to steal a car, right?
Yeah, I think he steals that black BMW.
Yeah, he starts with a BMW. So that's where we're introduced to the parking lot attendant that works with him.
Yeah, was that Rick Astley? It looked like Rick Astley.
It actually, it actually did. I'm not sure if it was, but...
No, it wasn't. It absolutely was not Rick Astley.
Yeah. No, I would imagine...
looked like him.
Yeah, I would imagine that it probably wasn't, but yeah, it did look like
Never gonna give you up, no, never gonna let you down.
Yeah, it just got rickrolled in this episode. But yeah, so we get introduced to, because I want to touch on Vincent's line of work, let's say. So this is where we get introduced to kind of what he does, a little bit more into his criminal nature. It's not just parking tickets. So I guess he steals cars and resells them.
Oh, I want to... you know what? Now that I'm thinking back, I think he steals the car before he goes to jail.
It is possible. It's possible.
That's okay. We can just move on.
I think it's it's not a huge difference to the overall.
True, I think
overall film here or whatever, but
he definitely goes then back to his office, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to touch on something there. So back at his office, did you see what his actual business was and what his line of work is?
Oh, it was so many different things.
Yeah,
it was sports agent. Import export.
Yeah. And I have a list here. So, like I said, yeah, sports agent is one of them. Artist representative.
Yes.
Import export again, like you mentioned. Automobile sales, rental and leasing.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, and then wholesale patio furniture.
I do remember the wholesale patio. I thought that I didn't see patio, but I remember specifically furniture.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking, this guy's full of it. It was just whatever stolen like stuff he can get his hands on.
Yeah. Pretty much, that's what it feels like is what he does. And yeah, I
like,
think his business. Go on.
They were like taking his furniture out, and his secretary was working on the floor.
Yeah. All of her stuff was on the floor, phones and everything. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this is basically where the first time Julius has to fight, and he fights the goon that comes to intimidate Vincent, right?
Yeah. And actually, I was gonna say, so the name of his business is it's just Vincent Benedict Incorporated. It's what it said on his business name. So actually, that makes it a lot easier for
Julius to find
him. Exactly. Yeah. So. I mean, I'm still gonna stick with that. He probably found him using the telepathy, but that is another factor for him to be able to find him.
For sure.
And yeah, like you said, yeah. So this is the first actual. Well, it's the second time we see his strength being used after that motorcycle scene earlier. Right. But this is the first fight scene that we actually see.
Right. So he started. I think not every fight scene, but in most fight scenes in the movie, he talks about these. Rules of what is it that he calls it his
I think it's like crisis situation or something like that.
Yeah, crisis management rules.
Something like that. Yeah.
Which was obviously a reference to one of the books that he read.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And does he lift that big burly guy right off his feet?
I think he might have, yeah.
He does it to one guy in the movie, and I can't remember if it was
I think that was the scene. I think he grabbed him just like by his, by his like shirt or whatever.
No. Oh yeah, you're right. He grabbed him by his jacket collars,
yeah. There's another thing that's like really kind of reminding me here is a scene in Terminator 2 where he grabs one of the guys just by his hair. I'm pretty sure. So it was that he definitely didn't do something like that, but I think he just grabbed him by his, by his shirt.
Lapels.
Yeah.
And he lifts him about right off the ground, and the guy was a big burly guy, so you.
He was pretty big.
Yeah, you get the idea that he does have that super strength in him.
Yeah.
Even after the guy grabs an axe, right?
Yeah. So it started, like I said, like him talking him down kind of, and kind of playing head games almost too. He was like messing with him to a certain degree, I think. Mm-hmm. And he was almost entirely defensive too in that scene. Like he wasn't really, he wasn't going in and like smashing him. He was pretty much just like when the other guy came after him, Julius just either reversed the move or threw him or something like that in general.
Yeah, deflection.
Yeah. So that again shows I want to say the naivety in this case, but just his
maybe control.
Shown that he's self-control, and shown that he's got a good temperament, a good nature about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that he can still cause some damage. And then he said right after that he hates violence and he doesn't like to fight. Right.
He actually calls himself a pacifist.
Yeah. And Vincent was already trying to line him up for some fights, and he was going to take care of the money. He's like, oh, no, don't worry. You don't need the money. You don't need to worry about the money. I'll take care of that. Just do the fight.
Yeah, and when he realized that Julius was good for a bodyguard, he was like, I got to keep this guy around.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So I think this is when he truly accepted him at this point, right?
I'm not sure if he was definitely not truly accepted him.
Not entirely. Well, we can actually argue that throughout most of the movie to some degree, I think. But this is when he first accepted him to show
to his face.
Sorry,
he accepted him to his face.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, there's going to be a little bit of this up and down throughout the movie, but this is where
Right.
now we redo the scene with the Mustang again, where Vincent tries to get in, and or no, sorry, he doesn't try to get in. He's waiting outside when Vincent's in the car, Julius is outside of the car, and he doesn't even try to get in, and then Devito stops like, come on, and that's when he lets him in. And then they're basically essentially together for the rest of the movie. Like I said, there's ups and downs, but
yeah, but we are forgetting the dynamics between Vincent and the girls. So I just want to touch on it really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
At the beginning of the movie, you see Vincent sleeping with a random woman where he has to run away from the married husband.
He escapes from the top floor and then rolls down
and then I guess he needs money, so he goes to his ex-girlfriend, technically, who's sisters with the girl who ends up with Julius, but he begs her for money, and then she gives in, and then there was also another scene that showed how scared he was of that big burly guy that Julius ends up fighting with the axe, because he hides underneath the table, and
he shows up to that restaurant or whatever, and then he hides and scurries away.
Yeah, so it's you can see there was a need for Vincent to have someone like Julius to watch his back, right?
Yeah.
So that's why when he saw he could fight, he was just all over it.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, deep in his mind, he probably still wasn't on board with that they were brothers yet. But
because it's pretty clear that he's a very selfish person at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And it was just what can I get out of people?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like I mentioned too, that he was already trying to put him in boxing matches or fights or whatever, and just to make money off of him. So, I think we're good with there. So now they're together, and let's see where we move on now. Okay, now I think they go to get the Cadillac. Or, well, there might have been something in between, but I think the next big thing is what's going on over there. Some technical difficulties? Or?
No, we're all fine now.
All right. Yeah, so...
Dog goes in my laps now.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Julie. Both of them now attacking me.
What? Did you say Julius? Is what it This is a little Julius and Vincent down here.
So next would be they go after the Cadillac.
Yeah, I think that's the next major thing that happens.
Plot point, yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember how Vincent frames it?
Yes, I do. He goes in. He's he's pretending like he's looking for the keys, and they're obviously not there.
Yeah. Usually they leave him under the wheel for me.
The wheel for his friend, and then he's just well, I guess, and he starts walking away defeated, and he's well, I guess the kids of the orphanage are not going to get their
we're going to auction off this. Yeah, we're going to auction off this car for the orphanage.
That's what it was. Yeah. So then he breaks into the car, and the alarm starts going off.
Well, sorry, before that, though. So, right now, we have Vincent manipulating Julius to, do crimes with him, essentially, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then I think it was actually Julius that suggested that they break into the car. Because he said, why don't we just try to get in there ourselves?
Yes, that's true.
So he's already kind of twisting... Julius to some degree.
A little bit. You're right. Yeah, that is true.
And then Vincent happened to have his the unlocking thing, whatever they call it. Yeah. It's I saw the CAA guy do it or whatever, or they even say CAA, but he did the same kind of thing. The Auto Club guy or whatever did it. Yeah. And then beginner's luck. Beginner's luck.
Yeah. But then the alarm starts going off, and he tries to disarm it, but Julius, and back to showing his superhuman strength,
Yeah.
he went to the back of the
Well,
car.
superhuman strength, and like just knowledge from like book learning, essentially at the same time.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Because he lifted the back end of the car, and he told the alarm goes off, and he told Vincent that the sensor, if it goes above a certain degree amount,
Yeah.
it thinks that the car is being towed, so it turns off the alarm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, yeah, showing good natured Julius, and Vincent corrupting him, I guess, to some degree, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, again, that was like one of the funny gags where even like Vince doesn't even expect it. He's just rolling around in the car. He's under under the dash there. So okay, do you remember where we moved on from there? The next scene that I have is where now Julius has to learn how to drive a car.
Yeah.
So I think in the previous scene before they got to the Cadillac, he asked Vince, "Hey, do you have the instruction manual?" And then he actually starts reading the instruction manual to learn how to drive the car. Which, quite honestly, I'm not sure if you're actually going to learn how to drive a car from an instruction manual, but
no, you do not.
you will learn the basics of like, okay, here's the gear shift or whatever for that specific car. But it's not going to really teach you how to drive, though. I would imagine he probably would have read about driving at some point. He knew about the cars being towed, for example. That little trick. So he had some knowledge there, I would imagine.
Right,
but probably no cars on the island to get any practice in. So
exactly, yeah, because he even says it's my first time driving to the girls later on. He says I've only been driving for an hour.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had one of our other fairly comedic gags here where he drives in. They drive into the supermarket to meet the girls, and he drives in on two wheels because he's just going like pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
And he offers to
the brake or the gas.
Yeah, and then he offers to teach that trick to Vince. But yeah, so this one I didn't get at first, but I guess the girls were already there at the supermarket meeting him there. I thought they like drove him there and then just like left him there after, but like I said, the girls were already there.
They met the girls at the exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think this is the first time that at least Julius met the girls. Because this is where they like mention, we're actually twins, and I think they bring all that up there.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He just meets the girl that he ends up with.
Yeah.
In the supermarket organically, in terms of like she's not with, like Vincent doesn't introduce Julius to her.
Yeah.
They just kind of run into each other, and then all four run into each other, and then they're like, "You know this guy? Yeah, he's my brother. You know her? Oh yeah, she's my sister."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Julius is already, wow, sisters. He kind of already gets the heart pumping, whatever.
Yeah.
For her, he likes the situation, and I believe this is the one where he rips the shirt. With or was that later on? That might have been later on, actually.
Maybe a little bit later on, but
I think it was later on because I think he put that shirt on when they were like in the house or whatever. That either way, yeah. So where did we end up after that? I think that's all I have to touch on the supermarket scene.
Yeah,
unless you have something else.
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Okay. So after that, like we said, they left the girls at the supermarket. They went their own way, and then they ended up at Vincent's house. It's this kind of something that like a beach house almost. It looked like a.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's not bringing a lot of memories back. So
this wasn't like a huge. Yeah, this wasn't a huge scene necessarily, but something big does happen in this scene. So they're just chatting or whatever. They're making. Yeah, they're making their like frozen lasagna or something, and then the whole house gets shot at. Mm-hmm. So that's I can't remember where that ended up actually even going after that. To be perfectly honest with you, but essentially they end up. I think that's after they end up trying to find their fathers. So I think there's a scene soon after that. Actually, hold on. I have a note here. The guy rolls up and complains to the other guy giving the job. I'm not sure what I'm referencing there.
Oh, I think you're referencing the bad guy. He goes to the one. They realize that the bad guy in the movie doesn't have the car because Vincent stole it. So he goes to the bad guy, and the bad guy just tells him, or sorry, I guess the buyer of the product. He just tells the guy, "I don't care who has it as long as it's coming to me." Because Vincent does end up listening to the audio tape and getting all the details about what's actually in the car. Now, he doesn't really know what's in the car or how much it's worth. So he does end up calling the buyer of the engine because he's got the new fuel cell engine in the
and
back
that's something
of the
that we
car.
should that's something that we should actually, I guess, touch on. So I'm not sure where he discovered it. It was probably around this time when he discovered it.
Yeah, it was roughly this time. He discovers the audio tape in the tape player, and has
that was meant for the actual guy that was going to deliver.
Exactly. So, with detailed instructions, so he ends up calling the buyer, and the buyer says, pretending to be the right person, and trying to up his commission.
Yeah.
And he finds out he went from 5% to 20%.
Well, it wasn't percent. He wanted to. So what?
It
Vincent
was percent
for,
because he didn't actually know what the value was. When he found out, he's like, "No, I'm only giving you the $5 million."
No. He was asking for $20,000 because then on the paper after he wrote 20,000 on the piece of paper, and then later he wrote 5 million when the guy told him that it was 5 million because they were negotiating. He said no, I want 20 because he thought they were talking thousands. I was like, no, you're getting 5. It's like, no, 5,000 is not enough. They didn't say thousands, like they didn't clarify what the number was.
He said 5 is not enough.
Yeah. He just said 5's not enough. Yeah, he said he wanted 20, and then we got to be able to renegotiate, or that's how the world works, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when the other guy goes into, hey, if you can find somebody else that can give you more than $5 million for it. And that's when he's like, oh, $5 million. It's just almost like flipping out almost on the phone. He didn't flip out quite yet, but he was, noticeably flabbergasted, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like, all right, fine, deal, $5 million.
You drive a hard bargain, sir.
yeah. Yep, so... and yeah, this sets up kind of like the serious part of the movie, essentially. So, and I guess just to clarify, so when they stole this Cadillac, all he knew is his buddy Rick Astley at the parking garage told him, yeah.
Who again is probably not Rick Astley.
yeah, he's probably not. So basically, Vincent gets rickrolled with this Cadillac, this brand new Cadillac. So that's all he knows is a brand new Cadillac for his automobile resale, leasing business or whatever. And he doesn't realize that there's something important about it yet. Well, as the audience, we do, because we see the people driving in and they leave the tape in there. They clean off the car after to wipe like the prints off, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So
we know there's something going on. Yeah. So we know there's something going on with this Cadillac. Later, again, I don't know exactly where they look into. Obviously, by this scene that we're talking about, he knows there's something going on with it. There's a deal going on. But yeah, it's some kind of like some kind of engine that's in the trunk, and they don't really know exactly what it is yet. I don't think. All they know is that it's valuable. So yeah, so that's where he makes a deal. So now we kind of see his dark side start coming out again because now he doesn't tell anybody else about what he has in the trunk. I don't.
Right. Think. Yeah. He finds it as finally his big break.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do have a few other scenes here. I'm not sure exactly. Hold on, let me. So I think in between there, so Vince is working on that while Julius is working on trying to find his parents. So he does find one of his fathers. Yeah. Anyway, somewhere in between there. Anyway, so I guess if you look at this guy, the one father that he ended up finding, I guess his gene that he tried to put into the pool is his his masculine chest hair. I think was the main thing that that guy was contributing. Oddly enough, Arnold does not have chest hair in this movie, so so I guess his genes didn't take. I don't know. But no, the father was like an athletic guy or whatever. Obviously older at this point, but so I didn't watch the scene. I did watch the movie fully, a few weeks ago. I didn't pay attention to the scene specifically, but essentially I think he tells him something about the mother or whatever. And I guess he puts him on the right track,
I guess I can clarify here.
Yeah.
He goes to the scientist first. They both do. And the scientist kind of lies to them.
And
telling
just
them
before
that the mother died.
So just before we go on, just to clarify, so there was the scientist that was with Julius on the island, and then there was a second scientist that was involved in the experiment. We're looking at the second scientist here.
The second scientist.
So they go to his university or wherever he was.
Right. So the second scientist, I don't remember what he tells them exactly. But he doesn't tell them that the mother died, but he tells them.
Well, he goes through more or less like the experiment with them. Tells them that
he clarifies exactly what happened. That
tells them that Julius
the good stuff went to Julius and all the bad stuff went to Vincent.
And they still keep looking for their mother. So we know that at this point they didn't. That they assume that she's still alive anyway. So he probably did not say anything about his mother being dead at this point.
That's true.
I'm not sure if he gave the name or not. Can't remember. I think it's the father maybe that sent them to their mother's place, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that one father that he met.
Now, I don't remember what it was. Why was it that he only met with the one father? Was it because the other one's passed away or something?
I'm not sure if they explained it, but I almost feel like it might have been because just for the sake of the movie, because probably not much point in doing a scene per father kind of thing. Maybe they could have included one of the other guys, but I don't think there's any need to include all 6 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could have definitely said, I did. They could. I don't know if they did. I can't remember, but they could have easily explained away a number of them with either heart attack, car accident, whatever, right? Just to kill them all.
Well, they probably they probably wouldn't want to be doing medical issues because these are apparently like the best specimens that they could find kind of thing. But definitely car accidents, whatever. So I'm not sure if they explained what happened to him, but they might have also explained it that they were just hard to find kind of thing, and this is the only one that he could find or something like that. Right, because all these people, these people aren't necessarily going to be just, you can just look them up or whatever, so it's probably just that one guy that...
Also, it's not social media day and age, so...
That's the other thing, too, it's not that easy to...
Stuff.
Yeah, exactly, it's not that easy to find people, but I think that might have been mostly, that the other guys were just hard to find. And again, for the sake of the movie, like, they probably just don't want to drag it on with...
Also, and I would agree, I don't think it would be necessary. Because it's not like they harped on his skills that much about the movie anyways.
Yeah, plus they were looking for their mom. They don't even care about their dads, realistically.
Also
they did,
an interesting thing.
Well, they did to some degree because, like, when Julius met him, he was acting just like a kid around him, you know what I mean? Like, hey, Dad, whatever, hugging him and all that. And then the dad was kind of like, kind of hands off. Julius did probably, potentially want a relationship with at least one of the fathers or all of them or whatever, but definitely it was mostly about finding their mother, though, one way or the other. And obviously with 6 dads, there's going to be a closer connection to the mother than, 6 dads. So, somewhere in between, I'm not sure if you have anything else to touch on regarding
not
that.
really there.
Yeah, so I think we're good there. And then obviously there's going to be a few things in between here that I want to kind of get into. We'll touch obviously on the search for mommy after. But I think the next big scene that I have is the bar fight scene, where they go to like a nightclub or a bar or something like that. All 4 of them.
First you can't skip Devito or Vincent teaching Julius how to dance.
Oh yeah. So I think before that they were like preparing to. And then I think
that's where they also talk about Julius being a virgin.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there was a scene. If I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but did Julius like step on Vincent's feet to like try to follow him on the dance?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something like that.
That happened for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Like an amateur dancer always steps on their teacher's
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like you said, so that's where they got into Julius's lack of relationship experience, I guess. And they were bringing up, that he had the hots for Vincent's girlfriend's sister.
Yes.
Anything else you have to touch on in that scene? I'm not sure if there's anything specifically notable.
Not really.
Beyond that. Yeah.
Well, I guess the only thing, it just shows more that Vincent is trying to teach bad habits to Julius. Just within the dancing, he tells Julius that you have to grab the butt.
That's true. True. Yeah. So again, a little bit of corrupting.
The corrupting
Julius a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the corrupting of the innocents.
Yeah. So then I guess after that they meet up. So yeah, we established that that Julius is new to this is his first girl basically. So that kind of sets up the next few scenes, I guess. And like I said, I think the next one is where they go to the bar all together.
Yeah, and there's not much there to discuss other than the fact that it's a bar fight and
yeah. Well, there was a kind of quick gag in the bathroom that they had. I can't remember everything that happened in it, but they mentioned the aquavelva that Vince got earlier in the movie as a gift from his receptionist.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was the same bottle or not, but it was just a reference back to it, or it was a product placement, one or the other.
Probably product placement.
And yeah, like you said, so this is again where I think while they were in the bathroom, actually the thugs, the original thugs, the brothers that were after,
they came in and took their seats.
Yeah, took their seats, sat around the girls, and then they had the guns pointed at them, whatever. And this is again where when they get back to their seats, so this is again where Julius goes back to the original fight scene. That we saw where he starts talking about the crisis situation. If I'm not
Second rule of crisis management.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think Vince mentions the fourth rule or whatever number rule. He mentions an extra rule in a crisis situation. And then, but there is no extra rule. He just made that up just to set up the next scene, I guess. And then Julius is. Oh yeah, that's right. The fourth rule. I can't remember what the fourth rule actually was, but I think they just ended up fighting him or something, right?
Yeah. So they beat up the guys, and then they take off. Now they start this was on the way to their travels with the engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they continue driving on their travels, and they swing by the. I guess you could call it a compound that the mother owns, right?
Yeah. So, well, there is something I want to touch on in there, and I'm not sure exactly where it happened. I think it was before this. Well, actually, there was another scene there, so I think before they went to the compound, they stopped off just to sleep for the night at some motel or hotel or whatever.
Yes, yeah, you're right. That was right after the fight where she the girl almost basically throws herself at him, and he's just I'm a nervous boy.
Well, they were gonna sleep guys in one room, girls in the other room, but then Vincent went to his girlfriend's room, and then the other girl came to Julius's room, and asked if she could sleep there because the other two are in the other room. So at first, Julius was. It's oh, which bed can I have? And then she's oh, you can have either one. I sleep on the floor. And then, she went on the bed.
Yeah, and then she's like, this bed is lumpy.
Yeah.
Can I come snuggle with you?
Yeah. And even too, when I was watching this originally, I was watching it with somebody, and they said like, "Oh wait, how do they? I thought they ended up together." It's like, "Oh, they do. It was all due to a lumpy mattress." And then yeah, that's exactly what she said after.
And like they used to say in the Newlywed Game, they made whoopee.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Obviously, they didn't get a graphic or anything, but they just said like, "Oh, actually, Julius asked like, oh, what do we do next?" And it's like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." Then yeah, then they fade out as they're kind of kissing each other on the floor on Julius's floor mattress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we go into the compound. I'm pretty sure.
Now there is another thing that I want to mention here, and I can't remember if it was right after this, where it exactly tied in, but I think it was right before this happened. So Vincent actually tried to leave without him. He tried to leave him there and not tell him that he was leaving. And then last second, his girlfriend pulled up like right behind him to like stop him from leaving the driveway. And she brings up that, hey, you were going to leave without us. So we're getting back to kind of Vincent's scummy side here.
Oh, are you talking about even before they start the road trip?
It might have been right before the
the other
before
scenes. He starts the road trip, they pulled in and they're saying, "Oh yeah, we're all going," and he just kind of has to go with it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Was quite a bit earlier.
Yeah, but again, definitely before the going out to find their mom, there was that scene. Like I said, I just want to touch on where Vince wanted to just abandon him and take all the money for himself and do the deal by himself. To some degree, they kind of mention it, I think, after where he was just trying to keep him safe. He didn't want them to get in, the line of fire kind of thing. I don't know which.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a little bit of both. Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of both, but I think it's more the scummy side coming out here, in my opinion. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, then they end up going to that artist compound that their mother set up, and
she tells them that the mother passed away.
Yeah, well, she says the mother's here, but only in spirit, and that is actually their mother that they're talking to the whole time. That's giving them the tour and all that stuff, right? Then she thinks that they're just some real estate. Realtors or whatever, trying to get her land and resell it or something like that. So she thought she was getting sand by him. Plus, it is these two weird guys coming in saying that they're her twin sons. Now, with that said, she knows what the experiment was. She was well aware of the whole thing. They showed her with all the fathers and in the lab, all that stuff. So she knows what was happening. And actually,
but. Later on in the movie, and I was going to bring this up later on, but might as well do it now. She was told by the scientist that Julius died.
Yeah.
Well, no, that there wasn't even a twin. Died.
And I want to touch on that. And there's ways to explain it, but how does she not know that she's pregnant with twins? And if you don't know that you're pregnant with twins, how do you not know that another one came out? Now, again, maybe she was knocked out at the time. Or the epidural or something like that. You can explain that, I guess. But it does feel a little weird that she didn't know that there was another kid that came out. You know what I mean?
Or maybe she did know. I can't remember though. Now.
No. She was told
either way, she was told that that they died.
Yeah. No, you are right though. She was told that they died, and I'm pretty sure she didn't know about Vincent. I don't think she knew about the second kid. According to the movie, like I said, it's kind of weird because how does she not know that there's another kid that came out of her? But
plot holes don't matter, Patrick.
No, they don't exactly. And there's ways you can technically, like I said, they could have put her under for the during the pregnancy or the birth.
They do show the. Actually, you know what? I'll mention this because I thought it was kind of funny. If you remember at the very, very beginning of the movie, they show Julius and Vincent as babies.
Yeah.
And Julius is happy-go-lucky, the bigger blonde baby. And Vincent, the darker-haired, smaller baby, is crying until it accidentally hits Julius in the shin,
kicks him, yeah.
And then Julius starts to cry, and that makes Vincent happy.
Yeah.
Just showing that negative.
For sure.
Negativity, even from a young age.
Yeah, right from the beginning. But. But going back to their mother, So, like I said, there's a way to explain that maybe she didn't know. Like I said, they could have knocked her out during the actual birth too, possibly, right? So she might not have actually known, exactly what happened. Plus, Arnold was a big baby, so maybe it would have been better to knock her out for that. Or maybe they knew that there was...
Came out like a third grader.
Yeah, exactly. But like the scientists obviously had to know that there was twins.
Yes.
Before they were born, so they would have to know. So maybe they, knocked her out to keep it away from her. But yeah, like you said, she was under the impression that they were no longer alive.
Right.
But again, if like she knew the experiment though, so if this almost like perfect human being like Schwarzenegger comes in, the Devito part kind of throws things off a little bit because she wasn't aware of the twins part. But like it would have felt like, oh, okay, I was part of this experiment, and then these people that are probably around the same age as when that happened come and say that they're my children. And I don't know if they mentioned that there was an experiment or not. I don't know if Vince and Julius mentioned that. Like,
I'm not sure.
Whether, but still, like that should make you kind of think twice. It's like, oh, you know what? Maybe there is something to it. Let's at least maybe grab their number.
A little bit off there.
Yeah,
like they explained it by saying, "Oh, it's just sleazy real estate developers trying to get my land again." But like, how? Just by pretending to be your I just
exactly
that never sat well with me. I think there would have been a better way of handling it.
Yeah,
I think it would have been better if the mother wasn't the one giving them the tour, but more of like an assistant who knew the problems with like the developers and was like, "Oh, they just claimed to be your sons." But I got rid of them. They were just looking probably to get your land kind of deal. And then she would have been like, oh.
Yeah, make her kind of think twice. Make her think twice a little bit and then...
I think that would have been a better answer to that, but...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Again, not a big deal, but just something definitely wanted to touch on there. But yeah, so she turns them away, and then they think that... Well, now they think that their mother is actually dead. Right?
Yes.
So at first they thought...
This is where you can see the change in Vincent, how he was saying, oh, earlier in the movie he was like, oh, you want to be like a big old family, happy family, and, sing Christmas carols. I don't know if he specifically said that, but like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then you could see the hope in that kind of like having the family that he never had because he was an orphan actually come... Like, you see that hope fade and disappear. And his mom is...
And I think he became, like, visibly angry, too, and whatever, I think,
and he actually left them behind, right?
Yeah. Did he leave them behind here, or...?
Yeah, so they go to a gas station, right? They leave the compound altogether, but they stop at a gas station to chat, and then he kicks them out of the car, and he takes off.
He pulls off, Yeah, and then so they must be close to... Well, no, this was probably New Mexico, because I think New Mexico was where the compound was, and then, he was on his way, I guess, to Texas to make the deal. And actually what happened, so I think the girls are kind of out of the picture at this point for the more or less the rest of the movie until maybe the very end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, until the very end,
Yeah, and then... Here we have, so actually another interesting thing, going back into corrupting Julius, is now Julius is searching for Vincent again in Texas. And he actually steals a car. So now he's, like I said, going back to getting corrupted by Vincent again, steals the car. I think he did end up returning the car after to the guy and then like talk to the guy after and all that.
I just want to, because it just dawned on me, I just remembered, when they were talking about Julius being a virgin, I don't know if you caught it, but Vincent said that he lost his virginity at 13 to a nun.
Yeah, and I think they actually referenced that earlier too. So when Julius was at the orphanage,
right?
I think they said they had to like excommunicate that nun or something. They showed a picture of like the nun with like young Vincent like looking up at her, kind of, and
very lovingly,
a little bit like So
showing that he was corrupted as a young boy with like trauma and stuff like that,
and even was able to essentially corrupt a nun too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So So if he can corrupt a nun, he can, presumably corrupt Julius, his brother.
Yeah. So yeah, he steals the car. How does he find?
How does he find Vincent?
The next scene is Vincent drops off the car with the buyer, right?
Yeah. I think he's in that, like, I don't know what it is. It's like some
warehouse.
Whether it's like warehouse, but it looks like a little bit more industrial almost than just a plain warehouse or something.
But
there's
it's like a commercial space.
I'm almost like feels like a water treatment plant kind of thing. There's like pipes and like tunnels and things like that he's going through. So I'm not sure what this place was that he was that they were at here.
Yeah, but he definitely exchanges the car for the money, and then just as
So he meets the actual like buyers, and then they do their trade off. They're all cool. Now Vincent's walking away with a briefcase of money, and then
the guy who originally was supposed to get paid, he mows down and kills all the buyers in the car. Right?
Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head, but possibly.
But this is where Julius shows up. I don't remember how he found him, though.
I'm not sure if they explained exactly how we found him, other than twin telepathy.
Yeah, I'm going to chalk it up to twin telepathy.
Yeah, there might have been some, like, maybe he... I don't think they, like, mentioned it specifically, but maybe he, like, knew to some degree where, the drop-off was or something like that.
Maybe.
I don't know. I think he knew definitely that it was in Texas, or I believe in Houston was mentioned. But... yeah, I don't think that they mentioned specifically, this is the building, this is the address, unless maybe he got it from a piece of paper at some point. But yeah, I think it's the telepathy, though, that found him.
Yeah, and they end up getting into a fight with the guy. And
well, so I think what happened is, like I said, Vincent had the money, he was off with the money already, and then I believe Julius ran into the original seller.
I don't know if it was the seller, but the transporter.
The transporter, yeah, the transporter. And then Vincent had to like hurt him, and then he actually went back to try to save him.
Right, and this was like one of the first showings that Vincent is changing to a better person.
Yeah,
because he already had the $5 million.
Yeah, exactly. So slowly Vincent was kind of going towards the good side. Again, not that he was totally there. Like I said, this is probably the first time where he like really, sacrifices himself and all this money for his brother. Before that, there was like small inklings of him going up, whereas Julius was slowly, going down into corruption.
Yeah, this is like a reverse, a reverse Star Wars, where Anakin goes from darkness to light, and Luke Skywalker goes from light to dark.
Yeah, and then they just converge in the middle somewhere, I guess. But so at this point, I think they get into a little bit more of the crisis situation, kind of.
Yeah, the crisis management rules.
Yeah, exactly. I think they go a little bit into that again, or at least like that type of feel anyway. It's not just like a straight because the other guy, the transporter's got the gun.
Yeah, I don't think they actually like fist fight, but he definitely like talks to him and is like.
There's a whole thing where it's like where he tells him to open the briefcase to show him the money and all that stuff and pass him the briefcase. Then he grabs it, and then now Julius and Vincent are like arguing with each other. Mm-hmm. They're ignoring the other guy, but the other guy's there. He still wants to kill him though because nobody's seen that guy's face. Mm-hmm. So essentially, anybody that guy deals with, he has to kill him.
Yeah.
So and I can't remember all the little minor details here. But essentially what happens is, and this is one of the most classic parts of the film, I think. So they have him like walked into like a certain spot or something. They notice there's like a chain above it. Yeah. And
this is I can't remember. Before you say exactly what happens here, I want to point out this gag is, in my opinion, kind of not aligned with the rest of the movie's comedy. But I like it.
I would probably have to agree with you. I like it, but not entirely. It is a little out of place. Like, it isn't. But I think it's a bit out of place, though. It's not something that you definitely expected.
It's like, it just kind of doesn't make sense, because all the previous gags that are like kind of unrealistic have to do with Julius's super strength, right?
Yeah.
And then now you have this gag of like all this chain falling him. It's an unrealistic amount of chain that falls down on this guy, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Oh yeah. So which is so I can't remember exactly how they do it. They either like press the button, or I almost think they like throw something at something, whatever to like.
I think he just pulls the chain down.
Yeah. Okay, and then like you were saying, the chain starts coming, or like the hook or whatever on it, something's at the end, like hits him, knocks him over, and then the chain falls, and then we just see. I think it like mostly shows back to like Vincent and Julius as they're just like looking at this thing. So it's like a minute or two straight of like this chain falling, unraveling, and it's a massive pile of chain that just covers them, like way more than you even like I said, that kind of is a little bit outside of the mood, but I think it works though, and I do like the gag.
Yeah, I do like the gag, and it works well enough in the movie.
Yeah, and it's not entirely like unrealistic. It is, to some degree, definitely. But but it's basically a pile of chain that's taller than Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
Yeah, I have the other dog now. Now, little Julie, Julie. Not Julius. Looking for pets.
Vincent's gone now. Julius is in.
It's funny because Julie's the smaller one of the two.
Yeah.
Right after that scene, which is a great gag, by the way. I don't know if it's in reference to any kind of movie or scene in like other pop culture movies in the area, like they did with Rambo. But
I'm not aware of it. Well, I think the Rambo was a very specific Schwarzenegger Stallone reference. I don't think it was just like like a random like parody reference. And that's the thing. I don't feel like this movie was parody. I feel like it was just just straight. And it's not a parody type of movie either, where you have like references and gag after gag and joke after joke. It's just like a lighthearted, you have a few gags here and there, but more or less like a lighthearted kind of. And again, there's the combination, right? It's not entirely comedy because there was the whole backstory of the making that delivery, and the violence and all that stuff. Obviously, the violence wasn't anything, like the other Schwarzenegger action films, but they had a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, and then so after that gag, Julius forces Vincent to give back the engine, and instead of and not keep the money, he just
that's right. They did like a whole like big news story and whatever.
Yeah, and the news story is what triggers the mother to want to dig deeper into who these two guys are.
Yeah,
and then she goes to the scientist that's on the mainland, the one who lied to her.
The one that they saw at like the university.
Yeah, punches him in the nose, when he finally admits that her kids are alive. So she does end up finding them and like telling them, "Hey, I just found out that," and they had a big reunion, but. Anything to say about that? Because it was pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy.
So I do have something to say about that. Not that specifically, like I said. She found them. They had this reunion, and then I think what I want to reference is the scene that was like right at the end, right after. Well, there was two. There was the one where they showed that like both of them had their own kids now, and they both had twins.
Yes, that was a lovely scene.
and they both like were wearing the same thing, I think, and then the kids were probly wearing the same thing. But then they had like two double strollers. They
worked together.
Yeah, so when they worked together, so this is actually what I want to touch on. So it looked like they started some kind of like foundation or something. I can't remember what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I think Vincent references that they had $4 million.
Yeah, that they had to give back $4 million. No, what happens was Julius says they were doing their accounting, and I think the reward was $20,000 for giving back the engine, And after some accounting and paying back their debts or whatever it was, I can't remember what the actual reward was, but basically it came down to like, oh, they only had like $11,000 left for the business after all the reward money was spent. And Julius says, "Oh, doesn't it feel better that you gave back the money and we got a reward?" And he's like, and Julius says, "Don't you feel better that you gave back the $4 million?" And
Yeah.
and Vincent at that point says, "Yeah, the $4 million."
Well,
And
that's
we
what I
all
want.
know it was five.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to reference. So Vincent pocketed like an extra mil off of that ordeal
Yeah, just
that like he didn't tell anybody about.
mhm.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what that shows is, as much as he has had growth,
Yeah.
he still is out for himself a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's one of the main things I wanted to kind of touch on in that scene, and I think for the most part that's the end of the movie. But there is another topic that I want to kind of discuss a little bit, and that's
That's the end of the movie for sure.
Yeah. So the other topic is who's the bad guy here? Because okay, so we know the gangsters. So actually, the gangsters, like the original gangsters that are after him, they're not exactly the bad guy because they're just trying to get their money back, or they're trying to square off their deal, whatever.
Well, they
Yes.
are, because they work for a bookie, and bookies are.
No, they're definitely bad guys, but they're kind of like in the background a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They're just like the dumb thugs, whatever. Obviously, you have that transporter guy that was a bad guy. That was
Yeah.
But again, the gangsters were just trying to continue their business, kind of thing. They're not good people by any means, but technically, Vincent stole this car that belonged to those gangsters,
Yeah.
or at
This
least
is
that
one of those.
transport driver.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where there is no real connection between the protagonist and the
Yeah,
antagonist.
yeah, not directly like that. And they just kind of got into this random situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the bad guys that I want to touch on is the scientist, though. So that scientist that you mentioned at the end, where the mother met him and where they talked to him in the university or wherever he was.
Yeah.
So he was framed as the bad guy that lied to the mother and the kids and all that stuff. But what about that doctor that was... Because I think the doctor reunited as well. The one that was on the island that raised Julius. I think he reunited with the family too after. If I'm not mistaken, at the very end of the movie. Or at least they met or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him a bad guy, because I think what he knew was that... because it was the other scientist who gave all the information to people and lied to people, right? It wasn't the one that stayed on the island. It was the other one. So he was the one that was doing the logistics for the people or whatever.
Yeah, but the doctor that raised Julius, he eventually told him that he's got a twin brother and that he's got a mother out there. I'm not sure what he told him about the mother. I don't know if he knew the mother was alive or not, but he did tell him about the twin brother after 35 years. So basically, he just kept them hostage on this island for 35 years.
Yeah.
And knew that he was keeping that information away from him. So keeping him on the island till 18, let's say, until he's like an actual adult, because you're not going to send a kid out to search for his twin brother necessarily.
Right.
But to me, that scientist that raised him is kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Right? I mean, yeah, they kind of framed him as being a good guy, but I don't really see it. And again, it's things are a little bit more complicated. It's not directly bad guy versus good guy in this movie. It's a little bit different than that.
I mean, he did raise Julius, right? So
it did raise him. I mean, his heart. Well, yeah, he wasn't a total bad guy in that.
Exactly.
And he raised them properly, right, with good good morals and knowledge and all that stuff. But again, it's kind of an asshole move to just keep him on an island by himself until 35 years old, though.
Yeah, especially 35. I mean, he could have done it earlier.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, so that's the movie in a nutshell. Not really a nutshell. That was pretty long.
But yeah. Really unraveled that nutshell.
The additional thing that beyond the movie was in 2012 they were actually scheduled to shoot a sequel to this called Triplets, and the original cast was already on board with Schwarzenegger, Devito, and even having the same director. Was it Reichman?
Right, Ivan Reitman. Yeah.
Yeah, and so due to some health reasons. Oh, and they were the third brother was supposed to be played by. What's that?
Oh no, that's the main. Yeah, the main part of that sequel.
Yeah, the main part. The main part was supposed to be played by Eddie Murphy, and that would have been just, I think, a new level of comedy.
I would have liked to see where they would go with that.
Yeah,
if
so
they had made it.
I think the movie The Twins was like a comedy, action, a bit of it was like a big mix, but I wouldn't classify it as a direct comedy or like a hardcore comedy. But I think with triplets, I think they were going to go all in on the comedy, especially with a name like Eddie Murphy.
They probably would have gone a bit further into it, right? I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, they could have also gone a little bit kind of like a True Lies kind of thing, where it was a comedy movie, but there was a lot of serious like action in it too, though, right? Which is kind of like Twins was, but I think you're right. They would have definitely hammed it up quite a bit, if they got
especially with
Murphy
somebody like Eddie Murphy, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Especially in 2012, he was like a pretty big comedic actor, but they ended up postponing it, I think, due to health issues or something like along those lines. And then in 2022, they even had it scheduled to start filming with a new triplet of
Tracy Morgan. I thought you said
Tracy Morgan. Yeah. That's right. But because Reichman passed away in February of 2022, they said they're just not going to make it.
Yeah, just put the kibosh on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is unfortunate because they could have made it as like a tribute to Reichman, but
oh yeah, and I'm sure there's still capable people that could have put it together. Really, as long as you can get Schwarzenegger and Devito back together, that's I think the main thing. Well, that said, I'm a fan of Ivan Reitman and his other films too, so definitely that would have been a loss to not have him involved, but. But I would still like to see the movie, especially seeing the twist of having. And I would have been curious how they would have worked Eddie Murphy into it, right? Because they did go into a decent amount of detail with that there was the two twins, but how did they hide the third one?
Well, I mean, I think it would have been a little easier to hide the third one. They could have just, I mean, it probably wouldn't have been great, but they could have hit it with the racial angle, especially if they're already making the one scientist the evil one. They could have just made him entirely evil and wanted to hide the third brother because he was black, kind of deal. From the story, from the experiment, from everything, right? So there's always a way of tying it in. And
I wonder how they would have played it, right? Because obviously it's easy with two. You have the perfect specimen versus the rest. The genetic garbage, let's say, but then, I think with using Eddie Murphy, I'm not sure if you really want to get too much into the racial aspect. I think
it would have been funny if they would have played him absolutely neutral, and that would have made Eddie Murphy's comedy, I think, shine even more if he would have played this neutral, even keel. Because in the 80s. He was known for being this loud comedian, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And putting him in this
having him be the normal guy, yeah. He's the most normal out of the other two, yeah.
It would remind me of that. Will Ferrell's a big comedic loud actor, but in the movie The Other Guys, he played this average Joe police officer who was just as funny. Being this average dude, quiet, subdued, that he was, being the larger-than-life personality.
And it's almost a similar style to one of my favorites, Leslie Nielsen, which obviously his movies were, Naked Gun and all those movies. Mm-hmm. Those were gag after gag, joke after joke, but Leslie Nielsen played it off as just straight-laced guy, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally serious, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was a serious character or a serious person fitted into this ridiculous comedy. So they could have played it like that, but again, Twins wasn't about just gag after gag and bigger, larger than life comedy like that. So having a neutral Eddie Murphy in there actually would have probably worked for the overall feel of the Twins, I think.
I don't know how they would have done it and how good it would have been
ultimately. But I'm definitely curious.
Right, because you look at other comedies that have been recently redone, even with the original cast, like Dumb and Dumber, the sequel just like flopped.
Yeah.
So maybe it was an era thing, and these days is just different. But like overall, I think it would have been interesting to see a triplets
Yeah.
movie.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
we
for
will
sure.
with like a totally different cast, because you
I
can
don't
have
know.
lots of.
I think it'd be tough to do. I mean, I'm sure you can find somebody, but it'd be hard without Schwarzenegger and Devito because those are like, and especially today, like they're so known as
Yeah,
part
but
of like
like
just like culture that.
I already know who would play Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, who do you got?
Alan Richardson.
Not sure. Not even sure who that
No?
is.
Um,
What's his big notable roles?
the most recent would be Reacher.
Reacher, never heard of it. I'll look him up after. Do you have anybody for DeVito's role that you could think
For
of?
DeVito's role,
Just get DeVito back for that.
no. I mean, I think who would actually absolutely nail the part would be Peter Dinklage, or a young Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. I can see that because obviously I was going to say that obviously Danny DeVito is fairly short in stature, so I think I looked up his height. I think he's 4'10" or something like that. So obviously that's what they were playing off on, these male pattern baldness as well. So that they were playing off on that as well. His appearance. But yeah, like a Peter Dinklage could definitely be. Now keep in mind if there is a twin sequel, like the characters are going to be older too, so you can use older actors. They don't have
That's
to be.
true,
doesn't
and
have to take-
Alan Richardson, even though he's a younger actor, it's pretty easy to make an actor look slightly older, right?
Yeah, sure.
So,
sure.
so like,
And keep in mind
especially
too that Julius is the perfect specimen, so he wouldn't even age as much. It would actually even be funny
That's
to
true.
keep him like the same age.
That's true.
When
And-
DeVito's
and
character ages just like double speed, but
yeah, and Peter Dinklage has the acting chops to
Yeah,
do a
for sure.
comedic role.
oh yeah,
I think
yeah,
he's more than
100%.
capable of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
outside
definitely.
of Peter Dinklage, man,
Yeah,
who would be a good role for that?
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that are like have the physical traits that, and not to be disparaging, by any means here, but obviously, like I said, it's they're using DeVito's physical traits in a comedic way here, so
Right.
yeah, I can't
Like,
think of somebody that.
Maybe like, but he's skinny now. I was thinking of Jonah Hill, but he's
Yeah,
skinny
yeah,
now.
Wow, hey.
Oh my God.
I think he might be retired, but okay, go on. It sounds like you got
Dude.
something.
The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Alright.
The new twins!
Yeah, that would work.
I mean, they've already played in a movie together.
Yeah.
More than once.
Yeah. Now again, I think now you're getting into like a racial thing that you might not want to like touch on these days, especially. But I think definitely, yeah, the two could probably do it. I'm
No,
sure.
I was
Yeah.
just looking more along the big guy with big muscles and
Oh, absolutely.
little
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
That would have been funny though.
Yeah.
But Kevin Hart, even Kevin Hart in in Vincent role would be good too.
Yeah,
And you can
yeah.
use the racism aspect of like whatever to like hide his existence, right?
Yeah, I think you can definitely touch on it. You got to be careful with that, though, right? So, as long as it's done right, I think they could pull it off. But
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to pull it off is you just make whoever said the lie of his non-existence. But just
well,
be a
actually, you know what?
racist.
I don't think it's even an issue because The Rock is at least part black too. I think so.
Yeah,
I
but,
think
like,
racially,
even-
I think they're fine. Actually,
But what I'm saying is, even if you had my original pick of Alan Richardson,
yeah.
who's like a blonde white guy,
yeah.
and Kevin Hart as the counter,
Yeah.
you could still play it off like that. Like you just
Oh, you
make
can
one of
definitely,
them
yeah.
people
It's still
evil and
doable
you're
for
done,
sure,
right?
but
It's doable.
yeah.
But I think that would be a strong couple as well. Duo would be Alan Richardson and Kevin Hart would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Look up that Alan Richardson. You said.
Richardson.
Yeah, look up that. Alan. Richardson, you said?
I think it's Richardson.
Richardson. Oh, yeah, I'll look him up after. I'm not familiar with the actor, but...
Have you seen Blue Mountain State?
I have not. I haven't seen a lot of, somewhat recent movies, so... I don't think we don't have time for the show to, get into trying to figure out who this actor is. Or
he was in Hunger Games.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, you know what? I'll call back to our previous episode. Have you seen the live action, the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No.
No?
I'm telling you, you're not going to win this fight.
You haven't seen the most recent TMNT movie?
No.
Oh.
That's the last one I seen, I think, was the one with Sheamus in it. But that was already like 5-10 years ago or something like that, so...
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm talking about.
So that was the last... Yeah, I wouldn't remember enough of it, though. So, like I said, I'm going to have to look this guy up. I'm not sure.
Anyways, he
I'm
played
not gonna be able
Raphael.
to picture him. I wouldn't be able to picture him.
Well, you wouldn't be able to because you played Raphael. They had...
In that, yeah.
They had him with, like, those trackers for, like, movement and stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this...
Yeah, it sums it up pretty nicely.
Yeah. I did want to get into the Pokemon hat actually, but we did kind of go off on a twin sequel for a little too long. So unfortunately,
a little too long. Unfortunately, we just ran out of time.
Yeah,
for the explanation. But we'll definitely explain it in the next episode.
Well, yeah, we'll get into it. Try to get into it right away. Actually, on the next episode.
Just to not forget about it and not to run out of time again.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I said, that brings us to the end. So
it does.
Again, the only thing left is leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment.
Yeah, and I'm Matty.
And I'm Patty.
And we're getting chatty.
Well, we've got
chatty.
Yeah, we got chatty.
We got super chatty. I think the movie was shorter than this podcast.
Yeah, quite possibly.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, signing off till last time. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.